So in this session, we're going to look at a few tips and tricks about working remotely in an effective way. The caveat being is that while we can look at some good ideas and some good practices, this can't replace physical contact. Meeting people face to face is absolutely crucial for building a good relationship and bond. And on any project or even in an operational role, it's strongly recommended to make at least one connect with people physically. And that includes also in a social environment. So not only meeting during the day, but actually having a chance to go out for dinner or drinks and really bonding with an individual. So when working remotely, I think one of the most important principles to put into practice is to share out loud. The worst thing for anybody who is remote is not having a sense of what's going on, who's doing what the latest updates are. So openly sharing that and making a key part of your routine to document that and share it for colleagues remotely is essential to keep everybody up to date and feeling like they're part of the process. One of the most basic things you have to get right is the tooling. There are many tools out there for communications and collaborations, but the important thing is to use something that people are used to, people know how to use, and obviously work with clients if you're working with clients remotely or physically. For the project that we're working on, we use a combination of Confluence and Jira for project matters, and Teams mainly for communications. One of the things that we try to do is avoid emails. With emails, things seem to go off into an ether and get lost, whereas if updates are happening on Jira tickets themselves or within Confluence pages, everybody can see it, everybody can see the latest progress rather than digging out what you found in the last email. Conversely, Teams is more for immediate day-to-day contact within the group for odd questions, development-related issues, things like that. Again, email we found is not the best way to work. A side note though on using Teams, if you're in meetings, and again, especially if you're working with clients overseas, I think it's really important to have video on as much as possible. This might not really be necessary on the day-to-day interaction, especially if you're screen sharing a lot and working through topics together. But at least when you're giving updates from a client perspective, having that video on makes quite a big difference, especially on the kind of relationship building as well. One of the most important updates you can give from a development perspective is what's happening on specific Jira tickets. We found that it's really important to give daily updates on those tickets. If nothing else, then to say why you couldn't get to those tickets if there are no updates. At least there's something there in the ticket to say what's happened or not happened. If there has been some progress on the ticket, just document in very short kind of like updates the things that you worked on. You don't have to paint the whole picture, but at least giving a quick summary to the end user is more helpful than seeing no progress at all. One thing to add on the communication side is if you're working with clients overseas, one really simple but important thing to do is to have some kind of a daily handover. Somewhere where you can always give an update on what's happened in your daytime, what actions you've taken, what challenges you've come across, so that it's clear to the client what progress has been made that day, and also gives them a chance to respond to some of the questions or challenges that you may have. I think this makes them feel very much engaged, even if they are remote, and also allows for pretty much a longer working day so that you can get productive in your time zone and hand things over that you need their help on, and then they can also pass things back to you in queries so that you can pick it up in your daytime and work on those. An example I can give of how important that daily communication is when working in support. What I found was that actually making sure that the response SLA was met and adhered to was more important than the resolution SLA. That means that effectively, if the support agent can communicate with you on a daily basis what's happening with your ticket and how your issue is progressing, that actually is more important to the user than actually having their ticket resolved a lot of the times, just to feel engaged and communicated to. The other thing to consider when you're working in this way is there needs to be a little bit of extra additional planning in place. So when you need to get actions done, when you need to share progress updates, you kind of need to plan for that a day or two in advance, even more so than you'd normally do if you're working physically in the same location regularly. And that's just to prepare everybody for the information that's coming and give them a chance to react to that and provide you the input that you need to carry on in your role. If you're not in the office on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be difficult to see if an individual is struggling with any kind of particular task or issue. The best way, I think, to handle that is just to assume that unless you're getting updates as expected, that there may be some kind of challenge there. So just reach out, check in, see if there's anything that you can help with or anything you can help unblock. And it's better to have that direct engagement as much as possible. It also keeps the individuals engaged and not kind of feeling disconnected. So you've come this far and you've got some good working practices in place, but still there's a challenge of how to actually make work fun. That's something that's much easier to do when you're physically in the office and you can have those conversations over a coffee or meet informally at somebody's desk and talk about the weekend, etc. That's a lot harder to do when you're working remotely. So finding times within the meetings to really ask those questions to see how people are getting on, not talk about work for a little bit, at the start and end of meetings, actually is very, very important because people don't have that time to do that in the office anymore. So to summarize, these tips and tricks should help you and your teams work more effectively, but they require a bit of practice. So try them out, see what works and doesn't work for your own individual teams, and find a rhythm that best suits you. But hopefully these will be helpful and will allow you guys to work more effectively in the future.